Okay, so we're going to do a little 3D modeling. We're going to start this, and this is what you're going to be using to do your dragster, your blank. This is called Autodesk Fusion. If you do not have your login for this, if you haven't signed up, then you need to stop watching this video and watch the other one for Autodesk Inventor. So it's a very similar program made by the same company, but this is just a little more user-friendly. So hopefully we all get to use this one this year. So what we're going to do eventually is I'm going to give you this file right here, and this is the block that you will get for your car design, and you will do some 3D modeling and turn it into a design. It doesn't have to be like this, but something like this, where you then could see what your car looks like in 3D, and you can go out there in the shop and you can actually make this thing, okay? But 3D modeling gives you a chance to look at it ahead of time and see if there's going to be any issues, if things need to be changed. You can do that here in digital space versus having to start over on your car because you messed up, okay? What we're going to do today is we're going to make this block right here. So just very basic 3D shape that has a couple different things sticking off of it, a hole cut out of it. So that's what we're going to start. All right, so how do we get to this? In Schoology, okay, so you're here today's stuff. There's a link right here for Fusion Online, okay? So when you go to this, you click this, you can click continue to go faster. This is the login that you have to, so you'll click right here, launch Fusion. So Fusion is not on Itopia, so you're not going to Itopia for this. You're going to Fusion Online, okay? So when you get to here, though, it'll ask you to sign in. So the sign in for this is the personal email that you gave me and then the password that you created. So make sure you know that and remember that. I would also suggest that you bookmark this site here. So the site that I went to, click the little star, add a bookmark for it so you don't have to go to Schoology every time you want to go and open up Fusion. But you just be patient, okay? It takes a little while, but eventually it'll open up. Now, when you first get to here, there's some things we need to do, okay? So we need to uncheck this, make sure this is unchecked if you haven't already done that. Hit OK. Again, just be patient. It'll get there eventually. Okay, so now you're here in Fusion and you're working on your stuff. But there's a couple things you need to change before you actually start working, okay? And I've taken some screenshots of this because I've already done it. So first thing, like we said, we're going to uncheck those three things and hit OK. Then this might come up, okay? We want to choose this one right here, design. So you're going to click on design. It's going to turn blue, and you click get started. Okay, then it'll look like this whenever you open it up. And then you would just click new right here, okay? Now, then you'll get to this, and it'll look like this. And part of your screens are already small, and you don't want it to be even smaller by having this learning panel open. So we can go up here and X out of this with this X right here. It's not going to close out of the whole thing. It's just going to close out of this panel on the side. So you click that X, and then you'll get to here. Now, there's a few settings I need you to change. So we're going to go up here to, so you should see your two initials right here. So you're going to click that, and you're going to click Preferences. Then you get to this. And so we're just in the first one, the General Preferences. There's one thing you need to change here, or two things actually. Right down here in the middle, Default Modeling Orientation. Where it says Y up, we want to change that to Z up. So change that to Z up. So it should look like that, Z up. And then down here, I don't know if you might have to scroll down depending on your screen size, but look for default orbit type and change it to free orbit. So not constrained orbit, change it to free orbit. Then you're going to go over here on the side, down here to default units and design, and then we're going to change this from millimeters to inches. So click that and then change that to inches, to IN, like that right there. Pick that, then you hit apply, and then you're going to hit OK. Now, once you get all that done, you should be here. Okay, it might take you back here to where you have this blank page. Okay, one thing though is we're going to close that blank page, and we're going to open a new one. Okay, or you can just do this right here. the little file icon and click New Design, because those settings wouldn't have applied to that first design. So now we have this one here that is the correct units. Now, if you want to check to make sure, if you go up here to Document Settings, you can click this right here, and you can see units in inches. That's what you should see. If it says mm, you go back to those settings and change it. Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this cube right here. This cube is a 2-inch cube, so it's 2 inches by 2 inches. It sticks up 2 inches, and then it's got a couple of, these are called extrusions, things that are sticking out of it. There's a circle on the side that's sticking out 1/2 inch. There's a square on this side that's sticking out 1/2 inch, and then there's a circle that gets cut out all the way through. If I can show you this, see that goes all the way through, so it's a hole. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so how you start a design in Fusion in 3D modeling is you got to start a sketch. So what we do is we want to draw a 2-dimensional sketch, and then we want to pull that out into 3D. So here it's wanting to know what's plane do we want to sketch on. Okay, here this one would be, we'd be sketching on the front. You can tell by over here, look at this cube. This cube shows the front, this is the bottom, and this would be the side. It doesn't really matter, okay, since we're doing a cube, but sometimes when you're designing something, maybe it does matter. I'm going to do the bottom. Okay, so I click that, and it kind of spins around. Now we're looking straight at it. So if you look over here, this cube in the top right shows us we're looking straight down from the top. So a 2-inch cube, we got to draw a 2-inch square. So we click this right here, this rectangle tool. It's just best practice to kind of start from the origin. It just kind of helps things get lined up and stay lined up. So we're going to click one time, left click one time, and I'm just moving the mouse out. Okay, so I can move this out, and then I can type some numbers here. Okay, you can type, so you can see how it's blue down here in the bottom. I'm pointing, but you can't see it. But down here where it says 3.4, I want that to be 2, so I just type the number 2. I don't hit enter, okay, because I want to go to the other one. To do that, you just hit tab on the keyboard, tab, and it goes to the other one. Then I type 2, and then I hit enter. Okay, now I have a 2-inch by 2-inch square. Now here's what's going to happen. Some of y'all might do this. Okay, let me just delete this and start over. Some of you might do this, and you click this, you come out here, you type 2, and then you accidentally hit enter. And this is not 2 over here. Okay, you can't just leave it like that. It can't just be almost 2. It needs to be exactly 2. So you can also add dimensions to things. Dimensions show you, they tell things what to be. So I clicked it right here. This is the dimension tool, just like in AutoCAD. Okay, I can also use the shortcut D if I wanted to, but I'm going to click this side. I'm going to move the mouse out. So left click, move the mouse out, and click again. And this is different than AutoCAD. Here, it's not just showing what it is. When you change if you change the number, it makes it that. So instead of being 1.89 whatever, I just type 2 and hit enter, and now that thing is exactly 2 by 2. Okay, so either way, you still get the same thing. Once you finish this, okay, we made the start of our cube. I'm going to click Finish Sketch. So what you do in Fusion and Inventor, if you have to use that later, you draw a sketch in 2 dimensions, you finish it, and then you do some kind of 3D thing to it. Feature is what they're called. So I click Finish Sketch, and it kind of spins around and looks at the isometric view. And what you're going to do most of the time, if not all the time, is this right here. It's called Extrude. If you've ever, used Play-Doh when you were little, there was a Play-Doh extruder where you put Play-Doh in the end of the tube, and then on the very end of the tube would have these different holes, and so you could make the Play-Doh shoot out in a star, or shoot out in like spaghetti, or different size holes. This is what this is doing, okay? We made a hole, a shape, a profile, and we're going to make this thing into 3D by kind of making it come up or go down from that profile. So I click this. And since there's only one profile is just a shape. Since there's only one, it knows that this is what I want to extrude. And I just want to drag this up. You can drag it up, or you can just type right here. Okay, I want this to be 2. And then I hit enter. So now I have a 2-inch cube. Okay. Over here, this cube, if you want, you can always change things around. You can look at the front view of something. You can spin this cube around. You could rotate this thing. It starts to look all funny, but if you ever get messed up, you just click this house right here, and it will go back to the main view. If you're using a mouse, which you should be, if you roll the wheel up and down, you can zoom in and out, just like in AutoCAD. You can also pan by clicking the wheel like a button and holding it, and move this thing around the screen. And then the different thing here in Fusion is if you hold Shift and then do that, So I'm holding the shift key on the keyboard, and then I'm pushing the wheel down like a button. You can orbit around and spin this thing around in 3D. And it takes some getting used to kind of figure out how to turn it, but you can practice that. Once you kind of get messed up, you just click the house, it goes back to normal. All right, so what we're doing is on this side over here, we're going to put a circle that's centered up on this. It's a 1-inch circle, and it sticks out 1/2 inch. So let's do that. To add something to this side over here, I'm going to put a sketch on this plane. So I click right here, create sketch, and now it's just like in the beginning. I could do one of these planes, but you can also now you can click one of these faces. So we want to put something on this one right here. So I click this, and it spins it around and looks straight at it. And now we're going to draw a circle. Okay, this circle needs to be centered on this square. Now with Fusion, it kind of snaps to, by default, it kind of snaps to different places. And this will help on this one, but it doesn't always help exactly right. Okay, like this one here, this is the center point. This is where I want to draw. Okay, so I can click right here, drag the mouse out a little bit. Doesn't matter. You don't have to try to get it like close to 1. You can just do it any size and then just type 1, enter. Now that thing is centered. Okay, you can always check to make sure. If I get a dimension, I can click on the circle, 1 click, click out here, 2 clicks, come up here and do a 3rd click. Now, I'm not sure why this puts this 0.319 way at the end, okay? But if you didn't do this and you just left it at that, you wouldn't know the difference, and it's fine, okay? But if you didn't find the center of that circle, let me just kind of go back a few steps. Okay, let's say you put the circle out here, okay? You could do this and then change it to what you want. I could add a dimension to this circle, okay? There's 2 kinds of dimensions. There's dimensions that show the location of something and the size of something. 2 kinds, size and location. So first I would add a size dimension, and I would say, hey, I want this circle to be 1, and these are diameters. So I want it to be 1, but then it's not centered. And to center it, okay, there is a move tool, but it's just easier to dimension things to make it move. So I click the circle, and I click one of the edges. So it's left click here, move the mouse up, left click again, and then you want it to say, look where it's on circles, it goes from the center. So that just needs to be 1. So now it's centered left and right. Now I need to center it up and down. So dimension tool is still selected. Select the circle, left click up here, move the mouse out here. It doesn't matter which side, it could be either side. Left click and then say 1, enter. Now that thing is centered on that square. Once you get this, whether you do all those steps or you just do the first one, either way, it doesn't matter. You click finish sketch. We're going to click extrude again. But now there's 2 different options. We could do something to this or this. There's 2 different profiles. We want the inside one, so we click on it, left click on it, and then we just move this out. I like to just barely move it out just so I know if I'm going plus or minus direction. So I'm going plus because there's no minus. Look, you can go in and it would show minus. So I'm going plus. I'm just going to do 0.5. With this, you can also do fractions. So if you're ever doing a fraction that you don't know the decimal for, you could just type this. So I could type 1/2 and it would still do 0.5. Okay, now we need to do a square over here. This square is a 1-inch square and it's centered up. So I click sketch, I click this face, and now I'm going to draw a square. Now for squares, it's hard to use this if I want it centered because the center, like this is drawing the top corner of the square and that doesn't line it up, okay? But there's a way you could, if you want to use the grid and kind of center it up easily, instead of doing this right here, you can click create, and there's different kinds of rectangles. And there's a rectangle that's called center rectangle, and so you can draw from the center of it. So it makes it a lot easier for this one. So click center rectangle, and then click right there at that point, and start dragging the mouse out. And again, we just want to type 1, and then do tab, and then do 1. Okay. Now, again, you could go and you could add dimensions from here to here, but if you use that center point, it snaps to it, then it's going to be centered. And you can look right here. Look at this. It's lined up perfectly with that, and it's lined up perfectly with that. So we're going to just leave it like that. You click Finish Sketch. Then you're going to click Extrude. Again, we could do either one, but we want this one. So I click this, and I drag it out a little bit, okay, and then type 0.5. Okay. Now we're going to put a hole through this thing. Now, there is a hole, where's it at? I guess that's maybe just in AutoCAD, or just in Inventor. Good, okay. So anyway, we're gonna click Sketch, and we're gonna put a sketch up here on the top of this. And now on this, we're gonna draw a circle, but instead of extruding it out, we're gonna cut it through the shape. So I'm gonna draw a circle. I'm gonna click that center point. I'm gonna drag the mouse out and type 1, enter. And that's all I need to do. It's centered up because I lined up with this origin, and it knows that, it's kind of snapping to every 1/10 of an inch. So if you're doing something that has nice even decimals, then it should help you snap things to the center. Finish sketch. Then I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to select this profile, the inside. This time I'm going to start dragging down. So now look, it goes down. It's going down because it's negative. So you could type -2. You could also just use the arrow if you wanted to. You could just drag this thing down, and I want it to go all the way through, so it needs to be 2. Now it could be more, doesn't matter. You're just cutting nothing, which is fine, but we'll just leave it at -2. Hit OK. And now if you hold Shift and click the wheel button down, you can see this thing goes all the way through. Okay. This is what I want you to turn in. I want you to turn in a screenshot of this, okay? Actually, I want you to turn in 2 screenshots. I want you to turn in this screenshot right here, this view right here. And then I also want you to kind of orbit it just a little bit so I can see that that hole goes all the way through and not just a little bit of the way through, okay? So 2 screenshots you're going to turn in. You also want to save this file, okay? Now, before we say, let's talk about this. This is one of the important things about 3D modeling on the computer is you can go back right down here. This is called your timeline. The timeline shows all the things you've done in this design, and you can go back and change things. Like if you happen to have messed up on this or this first thing, okay, you don't have to undo everything, okay? You can go back and change it. Like if this circle was supposed to be 0.75 inches in diameter, okay, you could go back to that first thing we did, okay, right here. I can double click on this. I can go in here and I can change this to 0.75, hit enter, and finish, and look what happens. It updates it. Okay? And then you're like, oh, no, it's supposed to be 1. You don't have to undo things. You can go back and change it. I double click, go over here, double click that, change it back to 1, and then we're back to where we started. Okay? So this timeline can help you out and save you some time. Okay? Now, to save in here, okay, I'm working on my desktop version, but you'll be online, and so you got to save in a certain place, okay? And so where we want to save is up here, okay? Make sure I have different things, so you won't have this. Yours should say Salyard's Engineering up here. Sorry, I should have had this changed before you started watching. Okay, so you're going to click up here where it says Save. Now, it's going to try, I think it might default to a certain folder. You can't save into second period or third or fourth or fifth or 7th. You have to go right here and change it into whatever class period you are. Then you're going to go into students, and then you're going to find your name, and you're going to save it in there. Now, you can only save it in your folder, so make sure you go and you find your name and you save it in that folder. Okay. Once you get to your folder, okay, you would go up here and change the name of it. Just call this 2-inch cube or something else. Doesn't matter. Just so if you ever needed to change it or go back to it, it's still there. Okay, but make sure you do that. Second, third, fourth, fifth, 7th. Students, find your name. Like let's see, and then you just would save in here. Change the name up here and hit save. Okay. All right. Take those 2 screenshots and turn this thing in. Turn the screenshots, both of those screenshots in to the Schoology assignment.